Good. All right. It looks like I'm rocking and rolling. Hello. My name is Katie Weatherup, and I am a shamanic practitioner. And I have a new offering I'm really excited about. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But I also want to talk about something that I hope will be useful to you, regardless of whether you decide that you're interested in the offering or not. So, one of the best questions to ask as people who are trying to get to a certain outcome, this could be a job outcome or a relationship outcome or pretty much anything under the sun. People often ask, how do I do that? How do I get there? And I would argue that a more relevant and effective question to ask is, what's in the way? Because humans are ridiculously resourceful, and especially now that we have the internet is ridiculously useful. The things you can find on YouTube, the obscure, refrigerator fixing tutorials, or how to write really good copy, or how to I've been creating a podcast, and there's this incredible wealth of people who are teaching me online how to sound edit and how to what the steps are and where I can get music, and there's just so much out there. And there's just so much resource to be able to figure things out, and even complicated things like anxiety or depression. There's so many maps of people who have dealt with absolutely crippling experiences of these things and figured out a strategy, and they've written books and they've created YouTube videos and they've written articles, and there's so much opportunity to figure out the how-to. We have such a human wisdom and wealth around that question. But the thing that we don't always know, because the answer in this case is so personal, like there could be many, many tracks of how do you do the thing, and your answer could be really personal, but the one that maybe isn't going to be as obvious that you could Google on the internet is going deep internally with the what's in the way question. So if you're not having a relationship or you're stuck in depression, what's in the way of getting out of that? What's in the way of making the change? And so it's a powerful question to start to ask. And the new offering I'm coming up with, it's an 8-week offering, so basically 2 months, 8 shamanic journeys. And what we're doing is clearing past life trauma and pain, as well as old, outdated oaths and contracts and swearings. Because when we start to look at an energetic level of what's in the way, the answer might be hidden. And that's where shamanism really excels. So if you happen to know that your family, had some issues around alcohol, or, there were, people repressing their emotions and not talking to each other, or something where education didn't happen, and you might be like, okay, I really understand why I came by some of the underlying beliefs. But if you cultivate a growth mindset, and one of the cool things is if you just read the neuroscience about a growth mindset and accept that this is far more true of humans than the mindset that's the fixed mindset that says we can't grow and learn and change, the talent you were born with is just what you're stuck with, then the cool thing is you have this really great opportunity to actually shift that. So if you're in a growth mindset and you know what's in the way, you can start figuring out how to address it. But I would argue that there are these mysterious parts of ourselves that have a veil drawn over them, where we don't know what past lives, we get these echoes of past life trauma when we have a disproportional reaction to something. So if you have a legitimate incident of grief and it's a really big response, that may speak to grief in this lifetime that you hadn't dealt with before, that's coming back, a form of emotional debt, or it may speak to a past life where there was an unresolved trauma or difficulty. So what's cool about this work is I'm going to be going into each of the chakras, and I'm going to be having a chat with the individual chakra about what might be getting in the way of it being its most contemporary, free, fully actualized version of itself. So this is certainly past life trauma. So for the root chakra, it would want to talk to me about times you didn't have safety and security needs met. But the heart chakra would probably want to talk about times where connection didn't work out. And the crown chakra might want to talk about times when the soul purpose that you hope to actualize and the expression of your unique essence wasn't really available. So we're going through really systematically and asking these questions in different ways. And then the other thing that we're looking at is oaths and swearings and contracts. So this could be the past life where you swore a vow of poverty or a vow of celibacy. And these can really mess with you because there are these hidden restrictions on your energy field. So you may be running a map of energy that was completely valid for another time and another place and another soul experience, but it's not so great for this one. And we want to work on just bringing that into alignment so you're free to choose. This could even be a promise that you made to someone who you're now divorced from. So if you promised monogamy until death do us part, it's totally valid to choose again. Like, I would never recommend staying married to someone who was abusive or an addict or just a relationship that was not causing joy and collaboration. Like, people trapped in a small home tormenting each other is kind of a grim fate. And I know it's a complicated decision. I don't mean to make light of the complexity of relationships, but what I would offer is if you have vows to people that you're no longer with, that's not serving the freedom of your choice. So I'm not against being committed to things. I'm just against having commitments and loyalty to things that are no longer contemporary or relevant. So someone who's gone out of your life, you don't need to have this lingering energy of a vow of monogamy. And you won't be able to see or know the vows of your past lives unless you're somebody who's, super geeky and does a lot of shamanic journey work. And even then, I often get help from other people to spot when something like that is tripping me up, because we're sort of acclimated to ourselves. So I'm really excited to offer this program. And regardless of whether you feel called, I'll put the link in the comments, but even if you don't feel called to have some shamanic work, I would invite you to consider this question when you're stuck, when you're having a really good plan to exercise and not doing that, or not eating healthy, or not able to make progress on an educational or a career goal, or not finding a relationship that's satisfying. Like, what's in the way? What's in the way of doing it is a better question than how, because humans are ridiculously resourceful. We can figure out hows like nobody's business. But in order to be at our most amazing and resourceful, we need to have all aspects of us on the same team wanting the outcome. So when we have this internal ambivalence, one part of ourselves wants something, one part of ourselves is scared of it or anxious or not available for it, that's when things get messy and complicated. And so the invitation is to think about your when you're not making progress on a goal from that framework. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that this is supportive, whether you work with me or not. And if you'd like some help around your old, outdated past life contracts and traumas, I would really love to support you. I'm super excited. The program's beginning June 1st. And you can learn more about me and my work at my website, which is handsoverheart.com.